Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Diamond Dads podcast. This is a podcast where we dive deep into the heart of family, community, and the connections that hold us together. I'm your host, attorney Adam Diamond with Diamond Legal and McHenry, and I'm here with my co-host and dad, Sam Diamond, and we're the Diamond Dads. Dad, introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm not sure who I am, what I'm doing, or why I'm here. My name is Samuel J. Diamond, Esquire.
What does Esquire mean?
I have no idea. What was the question?
So there was no question. See, that's how good
Oh,
you
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have to
is-
tell everyone that I've been known to not be a good listener because once you start talking, I already know what you're going to say. I'll answer the question, then I'll go on to the next subject. So, what's your next subject?
Well, but I have to acknowledge something amazing. I dispute that. I think you're one of the best listeners I know because you're one of the few people I know that can actually listen to somebody while you're talking. That's a very
And
impressive trait. You
excuse me, I didn't mean to
you
interrupt.
you actually interrupt somebody while they're interrupting you and answer the question they're asking while they're interrupting you, interrupting them.
I've had trouble in court because I've had lawyers interrupt me while I was interrupting them, and I've had judges that aren't happy with it. But what am I going to do? It's the hand I was dealt, and I got to play it.
Well, I'm going to come back to interrupting because there's a great interrupting story. But before that, I'd like to kick things off by talking a little bit about why we started this podcast and the story behind the Diamond Dad's name. Now,
What
obviously,
do you
the
mean? What do you mean we?
oh, you didn't realize you're a part of this.
Oh, okay. Why we started this podcast and whose idea what it is. I don't know what a podcast is,
But
but
it
I'm
was still your
here.
idea.
If you ask me to talk, I'll talk. You ask me to tell a
See?
story, I'll tell a story. You don't ask me to talk, I'll talk anyway. You don't ask for a story, I'll tell a story anyway.
Now, obviously, the Diamond Dads is a play on our name, but it goes a little deeper than that. Diamonds are strong and multifaceted, just like families, businesses, and communities. On this show, we want to share the wisdom we've gained from our experience and the lessons that have helped us to grow. We'll be talking with local business and community leaders. There are so many incredible people in our area, and we want to give them a chance to share their stories and lessons with you, the audience. Speaking of stories, my dad has some amazing stories. He's been an active part of the communities in this area for as long as I can remember. But Dad, our banter at the beginning reminded me of a story that I think is funny, and you probably won't, which is where you found your litigation technique. You tried doing things Dave's way and it didn't quite work out.
Well, yeah, my partner, Dave Lasser, for many years was
Now,
a
you
very
mean law
good
partner for our audience, right?
law partner. Yes, partner. Yeah, legal partner for many years, David Lasser,
Well, no, partner at the law firm.
law firm partner, legal law partner. Yeah.
Go ahead.
um, there's a certain plague that's plagued the male generations of the diamond lineage called punsters. So unfortunately, we're dealing with that situation. So be that as it may, the
So you think you're
David
being
was
punny?
very David was a very good lawyer, analytical lawyer, and would listen to people. He would argue his case when he was asked to argue. He would respond accordingly, and he would have his authority. And I always respected because I went to court and started talking, and until somebody told me to stop, I would keep talking and make sure I got ahead of everyone. So I finally, after watching Dave and seeing how successful he was, thought I would do what he did. And I finally had the authority in the case I wanted, the citations, and instead of immediately jumping in and arguing and selling my case, I listened carefully. I waited for the other lawyer keep talking. When he finished, the judge said, "Mr. Diamond, what would you have to say?" I very respectfully cited my case, cited authority, and did everything the way that Dave had done it. The judge said I had a very fine argument and I lost everything, and that's the last time I ever did that. I had another interesting experience in court one day. I had a jury trial when I was assistant state's attorney. Back then it was Judge Parker, and I had another lawyer, very successful lawyer, Don Truckenbrode, was on the other side. And Don tried this case, and it was a drug dealing case, and all my witnesses were drug dealers and sort of the scum of the earth. But I had presented really a good case, brought all my witnesses on, presented the whole case. The jury went out, and Judge Parker turned to Mr. Truckenbrode and said, "Mr. Truckenbrode, that was a fine argument you made. You argued that the state's case is like a building, and if it's on a bad foundation, the whole building is weak. Excellent, excellent article, or excellent, excellent argument, Mr. Truckenbrode." Then he turned to me and said, "Mr. Diamond, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm only going to tell you once. Please listen to me. There is no such word as irregardless."
So
And
you found a lot of your success as an attorney based on, admittedly, a little charisma and persistence.
persistence, don't oversell yourself, do your homework and know what you need to do. And you can always pull something out that they may not have expected. So, like any other lawyer, be prepared. Style, you have to develop your own. You have to do it your own way. You have to avoid interrupting if possible. Another story I had was many years ago. I was sitting in the courtroom, and we have a table where the lawyers are talking and things are going out in court. And the judge, it was Judge Skirmerhorn back then, he interrupted the court, and he looked up, and it was at the table, and he said, "Excuse me, Mr. Diamond, am I interrupting anything?" Obviously, they expect people to be quiet in the courtroom. And I looked up, and being a diamond, I was tempted to say, "Yes, Your Honor, but go ahead." Instead, I very politely said, "No, Your Honor." When I got up for my case, I said to the judge, "If I had said, 'Yes, you are interrupting me,' would you have given me a ticket downstairs?" Which is it's actually jail. And he said, yes, he would have. So I did avoid that on occasion. So once in a while, I am smart enough, not very often, once in a while, to keep my mouth closed.
It sounds like you really like being a lawyer, and I'm not. That's one of the few things I'm not being sarcastic about.
I enjoy it. I took this job in retirement because I knew, first of all, from the time I graduated high school, I knew exactly what I was going to be and what I was going to do. And people have to learn to do that and think that way. I knew I was going to be a veterinarian. Unfortunately, my scholastics in college for chemistry, physics, calculus, sported me out. And then I knew I was going to go to business school. So I then knew that I was going to be in marketing, which of course we all are anyway. That's part of our lives. So I did get a degree in business school and marketing. The only reason I went to law school is we got in a fight over an apartment that we were renting when I graduated law school, and I decided to be a lawyer. But aside from that, always know where you're going, what you need to do. Yes, I enjoy being a lawyer, but when I graduated, college, I really wanted to just be a lawyer long enough to get a horse farm and have a horse business. And we did. I borrowed some money from a friend of mine and we got a farm and we got a horse farm and we had all kinds of, while I was practicing law, and we had all kinds of activities and events, and I would be teaching and writing, and got to be pretty hard. I had to get people to take care of the horses and worry about taking care of horses and running the stable. And after a while, I used to go to the office and enjoy just sitting in the office for 8 or 10 hours away, 8 or 10 hours a day, telling people what to do, and didn't have all this aggravation of the horse business. So after 5 or 6 years of that, I retired. And as a retirement, I had nothing to do. So I'm a lawyer. So I've been retired for many years.
Now, you've had some interesting community endeavors with the horse community.
Well, the horse community, I found out that most people in the horse business end up going broke or don't have money or they're crazy or all of the above. And so I made it a point never to deal with horse people, but they always found their way in. And then we got up one morning. I was still a little bit involved in horses back then, and the county passed an ordinance going to restrict how many horses you can own on how many acres. And we thought it was very restrictive for the county trying to pass a zoning ordinance as to how many horses you can have and how the health code would uh, affect it, and et cetera. So I decided to organize, and back then we didn't have social media, so county board members were elected by county, I believe, township districts. So I thought, well, we should organize everybody by township districts and voting blocks and show up. But the problem was I was in what they call English riding. They call them 3-day event horses, but it was basically hunters, jumpers, and cross country horses. And those type of people didn't like the Western riders. The Western riders didn't like the English riders. The English riders and Western riders didn't like the racehorse people. The racehorse people didn't like the saddlebred people. The saddlebred people didn't like the whatever it is. And I figured, well, first of all, we're never going to get anything done with that. So I decided to get an organization that we only have one purpose, and that's to support legislation that affects horse people, no matter which business you're in. And we got them all together and we started publicizing with a newspaper, and we started using the newspapers, and the county board was going to vote on this ordinance. So we got the newspapers. We had people showed up with all their different horses and their trailers and their gear, and riding in front of the courthouse with all the horses and the people. And we had 200 or 300 people couldn't fit in the county boardroom, and we asked them to not pass the ordinance, and they took a recess and said, why don't you submit one? And we did. And I think that ordinance is still in effect to this day. And that was many years ago. I won't say how old I am or how many years ago, but it was well over 30 years, I think. I can't remember.
So you saw an ordinance, the county wanted to pass an ordinance that would, in your opinion, unreasonably restrict people from raising horses or doing certain things with horses. And you took all of these fragmented organizations and somehow got them to work together and stage a demonstration at the courthouse.
Right.
And then you filled the room where they were voting.
Yep. We had a big, there's a newspaper clipping had a horse head on it, and we were protesting this zoning ordinance for horses. And I think it's still in effect, McHenry County, the way we wrote it, how many horses you could keep on smaller lots, that type of thing. So,
wow.
I also had a problem when we had our own horse business. Once we got our stable going, we wanted to get a horse show, because if you have a horse show, you would make money. And Illinois has an association called the Illinois Hunter and Jumper Association. And I went to get a horse show, and I said, I'd like a horse show. And they said, oh, good, put your application in and we'll see if we give it to you. And I said, well, who gives it to you? And they said, oh, the board to give it to you. I said, who's on the board? Well, everybody that has the horse shows. And I said, so the ones that have the horse show are on the board that give it to them, but they're going to decide if I can have one or not. And on that basis, I said, I don't think that's fair. And they said, tough, that's the way it is. So I said, well, I guess I published back then. There was a very popular magazine from at that time, a very new saddle shop in Libertyville Saddle Shop, and they had a Sentinel. So I wrote an article that I'm starting a new association called the Northern Illinois Hunter and Jumper Association, and it has a membership of one, but we're going to have non-discriminatory awards of horse shows to people in the area. And I'll have a meeting at my farm on this time and this date. And sure enough, about 20 or 30 people show up, and they were key people. And we started this association that had non-discriminatory awarding of horse shows, and it's called the Northern Illinois Hunter and Jumper Association. And we had some conventions, and I think I was awarded Horseman of the Year by that association one time. And I was going through the internet the other day, and I see that association is still very, very active and alive. And I guess I was the founder, a membership of one of the Northern Illinois Hunter and Jumper Association. So if you're a member of that, look me up. I'll tell you about it. Where'd that come from? Huh?
This
How about
is
that?
the website.
Yeah, tell them about it. Yeah, I can show you some pictures when we first started it. We'll have to do a follow-up on that.
Wow, still
I guess they're
today.
still there. They probably don't know who I am. That's a pretty good looking rider and a horse. She knows what she's doing. Looks like a lot better horses than I have.
Now you had a gallant return to the riding arena a few years ago.
Well, I was coaching for a while. I guess my riding career is another story for another podcast, but I spent 4 years at the University of Denver. I went to college there, but I rode horses every day. Instead of skiing or anything, don't ask me why. And I rode horses. And instead of Western in Colorado, we had English horses. And I found a coach that was a former Olympic rider from Poland. And I started training with him. Another long story, went all the way to Olympic trials. And for marketing, I did a market analysis for it was they're still in business, I think, called Miller Stockman. They want to start carrying English saddles and equipment. So I was going around to horse shows. I did my marketing project for college. I got paid for it, and from Miller Stockman, I used it for my marketing degree. And my parents were pretty upset. They thought that I would never make it to college. When I graduated college, it conflicted with Olympic trials that we held in Denver then, and I had to get excused from my graduation. But I think we should leave that for another longer story. Enough horsing around.
Yeah, if you tell too many stories, you make yourself hoarse. But
Yeah.
that is another really interesting story. You decided not to go the Olympic route with riding.
Well, I'm not sure. There was an interest in the trials. My coach had a horse they were interested in, but I thought I'd be better off. It runs into uh, you felt like, even though it was trials and you didn't have any particular offer there, we did have a horse they were interested in. And this was whatever year it was before the Mexico City Olympics. And I decided, I think I'd rather go to law school and get a law degree and get a farm and do it my own way. Because once you get into that, if you don't have a lot of money, where you're going to get horses and stuff, and you're not really in control. So I elected not to go that route there. Might have had an opportunity, but I would have been pretty much at a lot of other people's mercy, because if you didn't have, it takes a lot of money, and if you don't have money, it takes a lot of sponsors, and you're pretty much at the mercy of them. But it's probably that way today too. I mean, horses are not cheap. You just don't. I never had enough money to really own my own horse until I graduated law school and got my first stable.
What a journey.
Yep.
It's amazing how things come full circle and how you followed your passion, but then you also it kind of followed you as well.
Yeah, I always know, it's always my philosophy is do something and follow it and do it. And if you like it, can't go wrong.
Do what you like, but
Yeah.
go all in.
Yeah, and if you go wrong, then you can go wrong.
The so as an attorney, who do you currently focus on helping right now?
Me,
Aside from you, what type of clients do you help? What type of issues do you help with?
well, he knows that I'm doing mostly family law now, and just done it for a long time. It's sort of one of those things. If you do it and you like doing it, you find you can help people, and you're serving a purpose. So you get used to it and you do it, and that's it. So
For our listeners, what is family law?
family law is divorces and relating. Family law is anything to do with, could be anything to do with disputes or adoptions, or sometimes disputes, which are either the form of divorce or domestic violence, and just anything to do with family, I suppose.
So the overlap between family and the law, divorce, custody,
Yep,
guardianship,
yep.
paternity, like some child
Yeah, but the thing
salvation.
is, the family law and divorce is no different than the horse business. I mean, I basically, once you get in the horse business, you're horse trading, you're buying and selling and negotiating. And family law, particularly divorce, with the exception of some passion for kids, which is also like the horse business. I always didn't have the money for the finished trained horses, so we take the rejected horses and work with them and train them. And that's what people do with sometimes families and adoptions too. So you're working with temperaments and feelings. That's the uh, family law part with the actual children. The rest is negotiating. Divorce is just a matter of a dissolution of marriage, is a dissolution of a partnership. It's dividing the assets and the liabilities. So it's not much different than horse trading. So I never really did get out of the business.
Well, thanks for your time today, Dad. I know I had a blast, and it was a guilty pleasure just taking some time to listen to some of these stories. To me, these stories really illustrate why we value family and community so deeply. For us, community means support, strength, and sharing celebrations like we did today. We've seen firsthand how community involvement can help so many, like when Dad put together the Horsemen's Association, the Hunter Jumpers Association, and both me and my sister Danny have carried this on in our own way with community involvement, and Danny doing environmental law. And so not only has Dad pioneered a lot of these things, but he's passed it on as a legacy. And that's really the heart of this podcast.
Please make a note that I didn't interrupt you. Sorry.
I know I was really surprised you didn't even interrupt me on the end.
I did.
Now you did. So, Dad, thank you again for your time. You have any parting thoughts for our audience?
No.
All right, there it is. I've rendered Dad speechless. So thank you everybody for listening. We'll look forward to sharing some more stories about community and learning in our next episode. Thanks. We'll see you soon.